So right now I'm going to discuss glycerolipids. So in order for glycerolipids to be made, you have to start with glycerol 3-phosphate, which looks like this guy over here. So it's essentially the same as glycerol with this phosphate group attached. So glycerol would look like this. Just draw it real quick. Yeah, so that would be glycerol, and instead of this OH group here, we have a phosphate group. Glycerol 3-phosphate could be made in a few ways. So in the liver, glycerol is directly phosphorylated in order to create glycerol 3-phosphate. And everywhere else, it must be made from dihydroxyacetone phosphate, which looks like this guy here. So it has this hydroxy and then this phosphate group there. So that participates in a redox reaction resulting in G3P. So then G3P can then be acylated, and if all three positions here are acylated, you create triacyl glycerol. So here you have 3 esters. An ester is carbonyl OR. That's an ester. So when you have a carbonyl, sorry, I drew these in line stick form, so that might be something to go over if you're not familiar with the different ways I drew the structures. So it's just carbonyl, carbon, O, and then a side chain. So a triacyl glycerol has 3 fatty acid chains attached to this 3-carbon backbone, and this is the same as triglyceride. Thanks. So then that is one thing you can create from this, one glycerolipid. But you can also create phosphoglycerols. So phosphoglycerols maintain this phosphate group on the 3rd carbon. So we're numbering the carbons 1, 2, 3. If you attach 2 fatty acid chains to the number 1 and number 2, then you create a phosphatidate. So the phosphatidate has an unsaturated fatty acid chain. That's why I drew this double bond here. It doesn't necessarily have to be there, but the unsaturated fatty acid goes to carbon 2. 1, 2, 3, there we go. But I don't want to get you confused with the actual structure. And the saturated fatty acid chain goes on carbon number 1. So that's one type of phosphoglycerol. This is called a phosphatidate. Prior to this, you can create a lysophosphatidate, which is this essentially. So it's just one fatty acid tail on the 1st carbon without any fatty acid residue on the 2nd carbon, and your phosphate group here. Anytime you lack fatty acid residue on carbon number 2, it's the structure is preceded by the prefix lyso, just for future reference. And I'm going to continue this in my next video.